Hello and welcome to a very, very special episode of Do More with Less. This, of course, is the podcast where we talk to the best marketing and business leaders we know to ask them how actually they're getting on with the very, very brutal instruction from above, from beyond, to do more with less. Today, I've got one of my favorite people in the universe with me. Her name is Laura Riches. If you do not know Laylo Wines, the business that she's built over the last 5.5 years, you're missing out on a chunk of life. We're gonna get to that. But the reason she's here, not just because I dearly love her, is because Laura is genuinely the queen of doing more with less. Now, she's got a B2C business. She's got a B2B business. We worked together 10, 15 years ago at Qubit and have stayed close ever since. But the way she's built this business, and Laura's going to tell you all about it, has been an absolute, even before I knew about do more with less, even before I started hearing, even before the words do more with less became almost a crushing ceiling on us all, Laura built an incredibly successful business with almost no resource except for smarts, wits, determination, attitude, a bit of sass, and some very, very cute ideas. Laura, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. What an intro.
Laura, we've got so much to talk about, but we measure our podcasts in time to value.
Yeah.
So how long does it take my listeners, my watchers, to get to the point where they're actually hearing something? So we're going to get to what Laylo is and why you came up with it and how things are going. But firstly, tell me were you always this way? You have literally built a business worth, I don't know, but I'm guessing a couple of million quid a year at least. You're selling to big businesses now. But every single time we talk, you stun me with an idea that went absolutely huge that cost you nothing. Were you always like this? Because at Qubit, we had budget.
Yeah. No, I wasn't always like this. In fact, I used to hide behind, we've got this meta spend, we've got this, the budget to do this with PR. And it was simply like the necessity in 2023 when we were running out of money.
As Laylo.
Yeah, as Laylo. When we either had to do more with less, we either had to think of creative ways of getting the word out there, getting people to buy our wine, or the business didn't exist. And all those kind of like horrible anxieties about posting on social media, doing things that are a bit wacky, saying something that might offend someone, but might actually make someone's day and make them smile. I had to force those out the window. And that was a real turning point.
You had to force that out of you. So you have that thing that I genuinely don't, which is a shame factor. Like you have that sort of cringe factor thing, do you?
I did, but no, I mean, no more, my friend. Like I think I always felt like I needed to be a sort of professional version of myself. Mm-hmm. And, at home, with my friends, with my husband, we would chat nonsense and laugh about things. And yes, at work, that sort of element of my personality, maybe not around my colleagues, but, certainly what was being put out into the world, I felt like it needed to be glossy. And actually, you realise, as soon as you start doing it, actually pretty quickly, you realise people respond much better to not glossy, to the kind of off the cuff. I mean, I posted the other day on LinkedIn something about how I hate Calendly, the app where you have to, fill in a form and choose a time. I absolutely hate it. I know it's really efficient. I hate it. It's got like, last time I looked, like 150,000 impressions, loads of comments. It's really like, kicked off. That's something I would have said at home. But prior to this kind of, forced like moment of change, I wouldn't have done it.
I don't know if you remember, but in my first week at Qubit, I tasked myself with having 60 coffees. We had like 70 people at the time, maybe 50, 60 people at the time. And I said, I'm going to have 60 coffees in my first month. And you were the first person to come to me and say, would you like to go and have a coffee? So you and me went to a nearby coffee bar, and I absolutely adored you from, like, I thought, wow, we've got so much in common as personalities. But I always saw you, honestly, from the start as kind of a level above me in terms of prim, proper, pristine, elegant, like professional. Like you, I don't know if it was that you and Ashley, your husband, are both trained. Like Ashley's an opera singer. Yeah. Professionally, you're a trained singer and musician. You have a certain elegant way about you. And I don't know if I sort of saw you as like somebody who's, but we always got on. But now I see you as like this absolute, not shameless in the worst sense, but PR queen. You absolutely excel. You absolutely
Thank
excel.
you.
So there was a time when you decided, and let's have a talk about the business first and the model and the decision to go. But you have bought boxed wine from continental countries that always had boxed wine as a big chunk of market volume. But here in the UK, we always quite snobby and elite and a little bit
You'd hide it
standoffish.
away. It was student house parties. You'd have it, sort of maybe have it in your house, but pretend you didn't.
If you turned up to a party with boxed wine, it would be pushed to the end of the table.
Yeah.
And what you decided, for both environmental reasons, but also kind of a distinction in the market, I guess, was let's do boxed wine, but let's travel around the world finding independent winemakers of beautiful wines, because you knew wines from your time with
Naked Wines.
Wines. Exclusivity.
Yeah.
And let's design the boxes like they are pieces of art.
Yeah. I mean, you hit upon something just then, which is, I think, at the crux of like the marketing for Laylo, which is the sustainability bit. It's lovely. It's a sort of, boxed wine generates 90% less carbon than glass bottles. That's a nice little soundbite, but no one cares, right?
It's not the reason we drink wine, right?
No one's going, I'd have this lovely Marlborough Sauvignon, or I can have this one, which is 90% less carbon generated. Bring it on Friday night. No one's thinking like that. So actually what was quite fun.
I'm getting
in sustainability.
Yeah.
Notes of sustainability. So we early on it was, well, I firstly discovered you could put decent wine in a box. Didn't know that before, which, given that I worked in wine, is a bit shameful. But actually really important to me that the wine that we're serving is great quality. And once I'd kind of had this realization, I then got thinking about, why is it that people don't buy boxed wine? Well, it's because they don't know if it's going to be any good, because in wine people are a bit sort of intimidated, they feel nervous. It's one of those like categories where, like art or something, where you have opinions but you're sort of too scared to say anything because you might say the wrong thing. And this was really exciting. It's like a marketing challenge. How can I put something out there? It is genuinely good quality, but how can we overcome this stigma, do something a bit different? So yeah, it's all about great quality wine, design, something you could feel proud to have on your countertop, and just having a bit of fun with it, like not taking ourselves too seriously.
And how many boxes at the moment do you sell a year? Just give us a sense of scale.
Yeah, so I mean, we are you're in the right ballpark earlier when you mentioned sort of over £2 million worth of revenue annually, which is really exciting. It's massively growing. We've introduced cans, and those are now, definitely more popular than the boxes for trade. So for theatres, for train lines, for places where you just need to grab and go, festivals, that kind of thing. And that's like the bulk of the business. Although
really, so the cans are now bigger than boxes, because cans came through an idea. Didn't your I can't remember whether your customers suggested it and demanded it, or didn't you have cans as a April Fool's prank at some point, and you said these are now available, or juice boxes or something, and you said not really, but do you really want, like, people were up for them?
Yeah, it's actually it was kind of brilliant and disappointing at the same time, which was we put out a new product launch, which was Laylo in cartons. So sort of, like those, if you have a juice carton with your kids. And it genuinely got more click-throughs to the website than any actual launch we'd done. Now, you can't really do cartons. We did look into it because that would have been like the excellent punchline to the story.
Really fun as well, like kids lunch, but we gave you the wrong drink. Could you?
Yeah, I know. Oh yeah, worrying. There'd be all sorts of issues.
Getting into a really good cab sauv.
Exactly. You can't learn this stuff too early, I think. But we then sort of thought about this idea of Laylo being mini, and it was actually one of our theatre customers who was taking our boxes, who was just like, Laura, you're missing a trick here, because more and more where people just want a single glass, things are being served. You in a busy interval, you've got maybe like 20 minutes to serve everyone so they can have their drink. You want something that's just grab and go, and the cans were a kind of natural next step. But it's nice that there is a sort of slightly wacky story to start with. Have some quite funny pictures of my daughter Sylvia drinking from one of those cartons that we made, like we mocked them up.
And did social services laugh? Or?
Yeah, it was definitely the closest I've come to the inappropriate use of children in marketing. But hey,
you've been there.
Plucky upstart.
So what I want to get to now is a couple of million quid in revenue. We'll certainly touch on. I know that you've got deals on. I don't know what you can talk about, but I know where you were yesterday. I've heard you talk about restaurants and the on-trade now. So I'm super excited. What's the size of your marketing team, or indeed your team? A couple of million quid in revenue. How big's the number? The
team is just 4 of us. There is not an official marketer, although I would say marketing is everyone's job. So I do most of our marketing insofar as there's like the nuts and bolts of like writing our emails and posting on social and all of that.
Do
good
press
stuff.
Releases or?
Do you know, not so much, because actually for like journo outreach, I've now got enough of a like relationship and rapport that I'm more likely to just send like
you just phone journalists on
probably not
lifestyle
phone,
magazines.
But it's generally like, I've got this idea, would like love to tell you, here's 3 things about it. I think it could work really well. And then, you know, most of the time, as in all of life, most of the time you get ghosted. But then I feel like that's more likely to get picked up than a press release. Okay.
So quick fire. I know about the Glastonbury idea.
Yeah.
I know about the Pizza Express campaign, the mixtape. I know about, talk me through a few of the ideas that just literally you started with. I've seen you on the streets with cardboard signs. Like, talk me through. I've got no budget. I've got no resource. I need to get a spike, or I need to be noticed. I need to do something. Tell me how your brain works in the morning when you've got a 2 million quid business to run and three or four people who rely on you for their living, and their parents are probably going, is this a serious business with this woman who's... How does your brain work? You wake up in the morning and you go, I've got an idea. How does it work?
Yeah. So I think firstly, anything we do, I try and work back from what's the image that I want people to remember. So if I use one of the examples that you've said here, we have this had this campaign where we wanted Pizza Express to take our wines. They actually have still not taken our wines, but actually, so we were thinking, well, we're going to try and contact them, and that could live just in an email or knocking on their door. But then if it didn't succeed, that it's binary. That's a failure, because the only person who would have known that piece of work existed was us, and maybe them. But we try and think back from what's the image that we could then put on social media. And for us, LinkedIn is a more successful channel than Instagram, like, because the sorts of people who love our business are marketers, are people who, you know, have been there, who maybe run their own companies,
who love
or
brand,
aspire
love
to
design.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hello, sorry to interrupt. Do More With Less is a podcast and a webinar and a set of events that's made possible entirely by marketing resource group Orbital X. If you would like to know how we credibly claim many millions of pounds worth of pipeline influenced by our marketing resource group support, and up to 60% of your closed won deals, give us a call, half an hour with one of us. Really happy to talk to you and explain how that works and how it might look for your business. Thank you for allowing this interruption. Back to the podcast.
So for us, in this instance, it was pictures of these old-fashioned mixtapes. So the first thing we did was go and see, can we get brightly coloured old-fashioned cassette tapes? How can we make these look like really 80s, really retro? And then the actual approach was we put together a pizza and wine mixtape or a playlist on Spotify. We put the QR codes in it and we sent them the wine and the mixtapes. It was like, we think we're a perfect pairing.
The real song list, the real playlist went on Spotify.
Yeah. So we created the playlist, we created everything. But I suppose, and you know, we didn't hear back from Pizza Express. But what we did do is then have some like really cool pictures. It had a bit of nostalgia. It had a bit of, you know, pluckiness, because, you know, most of the time if people want to approach a business in a professional way, they'll send them a lovely email or whatever. This wasn't that. And it got loads of likes and loads of traction, and loads of people piling in saying, oh my God, I'd definitely go to Pizza Express if Laylo was served there. And,
because if you just send the email, if you're ghosted, you'd never even know how successful you were.
Yeah.
You never even know if you got seen or read or thought about or discussed in a room somewhere. Whereas if you do it your way, even with the ghosting, you're building a business.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we did do a campaign we did a post where we basically went to everyone who had been ghosting us with helium ghost balloons and just stood outside looking sad, like stood outside their offices and stuck that on LinkedIn, and it did brilliantly. And actually one of the people who'd been ghosting us saw it and like, really sorry, and actually got back to us. So it was, tick, success, we got a reply.
For the cost of the balloons.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. In true B2B fashion, and I'm still in the world that we were in when we met, do you track any of this, or are you just happy to let go? Tapes, balloons, sadness, cards, placards, Glastonbury photos, move on? Or do you actually go, that I can tell you exactly how many MQLs or customers or purchases or interest came through that campaign, so that's what we need to do again? Or are you just really, because it feels so Mary Poppins.
So we definitely track the effectiveness, but I think some of that's qualitative and some of it's quant, right? So, things like impressions on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I track this daily and have got now a really good instinct because of that data of what's the hook, what do people actually find funny and interesting, and that's evolved over time. You start to realize, people love failure. They love,
Yeah, they love the cringe. They love embarrassment.
They really do.
When I left full-time employment and went as a consultant the first time ever, because I've done it several times, because sometimes it soars and sometimes I crashed people. The very first thing I ever wrote was literally the moment. It was a description of the moment where I talked my way into the what's the big jazz club in Soho? The
Ronnie Scott.
Ronnie Scott's.
Yeah.
There was a Ronnie Scott's panel discussion with 4 key media people that I wanted to get in front of, and I talked my way in, and I sort of and I was in the, and they spoke, and I had my question ready, and questions got invited. My hand went up, and somebody said, "This guy over here," and I literally spoke for about a minute and a half before everyone started booing. I've never been booed before, apart from now my children.
Yeah.
Being booed by people on the first day of business where you don't know anyone, and it's a crowd of people just looking at you going, boo. And the guy went, "We're shutting this down. That's not a question. That's just you talking about yourself. Next person." And I had to sit there for the next 30 minutes with this face, red, looks
God.
like a tomato, right? And I sit there going, the only thing I can do now is write about this. And I wrote, I think the headline was something like, first day of business, first crash and fail. Is this how it's going to be, or something? And it went absolutely wild. And people, and I love writing, so I spent quite a lot of time writing about that moment where heart's in mouth. You're on the wrong side from the door, so you have to sit there. Nobody wants to come to you afterwards and network.
Yeah.
It went absolutely wild.
People really love it because everyone's been in those shoes, right? Like maybe the scenario is different, but everyone has sat there thinking like, oh my God, I just wish this, like the floor would eat me.
Yeah.
We had something similar where I did these videos. I was actually pregnant in these videos, so but it was like on social media. It was like, oh, I'm Laura. I'm the founder of a wine company. I know what you've been thinking. Boxed wine is just heat plonk. And this guy wrote like a comment on it that was like, no, what I've been thinking is you're an overweight lush. And I saw this comment.
When was this?
Oh, this was
with your second child.
Yeah. So this was like in November of last year that I saw it. And I was sitting in the office and actually I was with my colleagues and I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. But
somebody took the time to write you're an overweight lush.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then what I did was screenshotted it and put it on LinkedIn. It's the most likes, most impressions I've got. I've got an investor discovered our business because of this post. It's, hundreds and hundreds of thousands, possibly now over 1 million impressions on this post. And what was so funny was just everyone who's ever been scared about putting something on social media and what that would feel like just had this huge like outpouring of empathy. They're like, oh my God, you poor thing. And actually it turned from being like a crushingly embarrassing moment, just like yours, to being content gold. And the thing I love most about it was this guy called Craig Griffiths. And I like basically a load of people also called Craig Griffiths then started posting being like, just to be clear, this isn't me.
Just to be clear.
And so there's like now just a like community of these people with the same name who've come together. And I just love that stuff. And, you know, and it's an example, just what I was saying at the very beginning.
Craig.
Yeah, exactly. Not all Craig Griffiths are made the same.
Yeah. Not all Craigs.
But like, you know, I think I would have been really scared in the past to put that out there because it is embarrassing, right? It's, you know, no one wants to be called an overweight lush. But like, actually, once you overcome it, you're like, this is a bit silly. And you know, actually, when I really think about it, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Like you think you care because you think you should, and because you're like, oh, that's embarrassing. But
I think I'd care more about the fact that somebody's got a life where they've got time and the inclination to do something so rubbish. But yeah, I don't think I'd care about.
No, I feel very bad for Craig.
Yeah,
that's you know, that's his.
Tell
life.
me this. Talk to me about when you knew you were going to be a B2B play, because as long as I knew you, it was B2C. It was I was buying.
Yeah.
I was looking cool, giving these wines as presents. 2 days ago, the neighbour that's doing our new shed spent a lot of time doing stuff that was extra, and I gave him a beautiful box of your wine. It made him super happy, loves his wine. It made me look extraordinarily in touch with trends, because the designs of your boxes are so stunning. And then taste the wine and oh, by the way, the party where you came to join my family just recently, where I wanted to make sure people tasted your wines. There was all sorts of cocktails on offer and beers and whatever. And I stood up and said, guys, just in case you don't know, there's a woman in amongst you called Laura who I love. She's provided wines for the evening. You got to taste these wines. They're extraordinary. And you went red. And one or two of my mates came to me and said, is she paying you? Are you an investor? Are you sponsored? I said, no, you've just got to taste these wines. And my mate Gary, big up Gaz, came to me and said, Mark, I have never and would never touch a boxed wine in my life, but I tasted both the rosé and the red. Unbelievable. So there
Brilliant.
you go.
It was so funny when you did that like little shout out, and I was so grateful. And then your mum was stood by me. She went, my son's always been a salesman.
Oh, Mum, if only you knew how wrong you are. Glastonbury, tell me about the Glastonbury, because that was, I want to know about when you switched from B2C to B2B. Did you always know it was a B2B play?
I think that I'd always like thought that it was exciting to think of people drinking our wines at home, but then also being able to drink them when they're out and about. Because, you know, for me, I love having a glass of wine at home, but actually the place where I enjoy wine the most is when I'm out with my friends, you know, like the kids are sleeping at home.
You imagined Laylo in a bar, but from a box.
Well, that's the thing. We started...
Because packaging counts in trade, doesn't it?
It really does. But we started to get inquiries from restaurants, sort of small little restaurant chains, because there's this big trend in wine, which is that people are drinking less, but they're drinking better. Yeah. And this means that on a restaurant menu, you'll see now more wines by the glass, more wines by the carafe, because it's just not as common for people to go to a restaurant and order a full bottle. Interestingly, they end up drinking more as a result. So restaurants love it because, you know, by having a more extensive by the glass list, you're probably going to sell more wine. But it's quite hard for little restaurants and bars who might, you know, someone might order a glass of rosé on a Tuesday. They've then opened that bottle. It's sitting there slowly, you know, oxidizing. By the Friday, when someone wants a glass of rosé again, you know you're not pouring them very good wine, and that can be problematic. So we were getting inquiries from people saying, you know, boxes, they stay fresh for 6 weeks, so it's a really good fit for us. But it was always like a fairly like niche ask. And
is there a storage thing? Because they've got room in there fridges traditionally for bottles and cans, but your boxes, do they?
Yeah, so well, it's fine. It's not perfect. And so what we were finding was we were going to, we were really excited about trade, and we were getting these inquiries, and some of the big businesses, not Pizza Express, but other ones like that, but, coming to us and saying, actually we can see all of the kind of, business and operational benefits of reducing waste and all the sustainability stuff, which has become, an expectation of big business. But we'd get through the tender process and we'd do the brilliant presentations and they'd love the wine. We do, our party piece would be showing up and saying, pour us your Sauvignon Blanc and we'll pour you a glass of ours, and, which do you prefer? And it would always sort of, knock the socks off. But at the very last minute, we'd lose the tender. Because it would just be something random. It would be the boxes don't quite fit in our trolleys, or they're too heavy for people to get out of the fridges to pour, or, it's something really, really small. We're not sure about having carafes on the menu because they're hard to put in the dishwasher. These things that probably should have come up sooner. But then I actually went and had a little moan to someone. She knows who she is. It was an existing customer, and they were taking our boxes for group bookings at their theatre. And I said, the problem is, I'm just getting through these tender processes, and I thought it was possibly force of personality, getting us through. And at the last minute we lose. And she said to me, well, you should be doing cans because they're much better suited. People have already got cans in their fridge. The cans fit. And then also they've got, teams of people who aren't wine experts, but who can identify the Sauvignon Blanc can and hand it to a customer, and it will be, poured properly and be really delicious, and they can enjoy it. So I took that bit of information away, went to a meeting the next day, and the customer said, look, we really like Laylo, but I think what we're looking for is cans. I'm like, okay, that's the second time someone said that this week. And then we interviewed Charlotte, who's joined our team. And at the end of the interview, you always say, have you got any questions for me? And she said, yeah, I was just thinking, have you ever thought about cans? I'm like, oh my God, for God's sake.
Actually, Charlotte, fuck off.
Yeah. So we rung up the lady I'd been speaking to, and I said, look, you said if Laylo did cans, you'd take them. Do you mean it? If I go and make these? And she said, yeah, absolutely. I'll take the first 4 pallets that you make. And that was how that switched.
So then at that point, do you have to take your eye off the ball of daily PR, marketing, selling, business, talking to your suppliers to go and do something you've never done, which is find a can supplier and understand how that works? And how...
Yeah.
It's not the most interesting part of the story for the podcast, but I'm really intrigued as to what do you do next? Do you have to phone Cans R Us? How do you...
Cans R Us. Yeah, so we, when it comes to the technical wine stuff, that's the stuff that you can't fake, right? You've got to have, you actually have to have that detailed knowledge. And I've got that knowledge to a point, but we work with, firstly, Alice in our team, who heads up operations. She understands, all of the complex infrastructure of filling partners, of, canning facilities and how you transport wine. She's really
and whether wine
knowledgeable.
Can sit in a can.
Exactly, and what questions to ask. We then also work with a lady called Clem Yates. So she's a master of wine. And I don't know, I hadn't heard of Masters of Wine before I started working at it.
Really? You're better than me at this stuff, but I think I knew about those people. Are you not one, by the way?
No, I'm not one. Right. So there's fewer people who have this qualification than have been to space. It's seriously hard. And
really?
Yeah, in the tasting exam, if an MW is listening to this, they'll probably fact check me. But my understanding is that you have to taste the wines and then not just say, oh, this is a Malbec from Chile or something. You've got to know, well, actually, I think this is a white Burgundy and I think it is from this area. I think it's, Beaune. I think it's a Grand Cru, possibly a south-facing vineyard, sorry. It could be this producer, but actually I think that their 2016 was, brighter. The level of detail, absolutely insane. So Clem helps us with, understanding that supply chain and making sure that, we're putting the right amount of free sulfur in the wine to protect it in transit and all of that stuff. So to an extent, once I've said, right, we're going to do cans, I can still carry on doing my day job and trust these people who are like experts to do their thing. And that's good.
Amazing.
Means I can,
Cans is now
keep
bigger
posting.
than boxes.
Yeah, way bigger. And just, I mean, it's like all those tender processes, you get to the end and people are like, yeah, great.
Because now cans are bigger than boxes. I suspect if you'd done the Glastonbury thing again, cans would have been because I remember that I think what you did was, if I'm right, you decided you wanted to be the biggest wine at Glastonbury and sort of figure out how to do that is to get Glastonbury goers to want to be your, what were they called, champions?
Like brand ambassadors. So we were like, we don't want to have like influencers, real, Molly May Hague or whoever going out with our wine. We want
Don't know who that is.
Sorry. But we want real people. So actually, and people who like Laylo, like we said, they often work in marketing. And so they're like, brilliant. Yeah, I'll go. I'll get you content. So what was the
challenge? What did they need to do?
So just needed to get, if they promised to, and if, it's a trust thing. I could have just sent people wine and then they'd never hear from them again. But it was basically, we will send you some wine to take to Glastonbury if you're going. But what we need is, I think we said something like 10 or 20 images that can be like iconic Glastonbury images. And people, people love a challenge. Well. Yeah, so it's loads of people by the sign. You've got people like, watching the pyramid stage. But
they were beautifully taken. I remember one or two where it was just like classic Glastonbury, like wellies, shorts, vest, hat from the back, like box there with people and it got in focus with the pyramid stage and like all blurred in the background. It was beautiful.
Yeah, people loved it. And it gave us like loads of brilliant imagery that we still use every year. But I mean, what was quite nice is I think everyone loves, they love the underdog, right? They love the plucky upstart and being part of that, creating the content, telling their mates about it, gives people a bit of a, there's plenty to do at Glastonbury, but it gives you a little mission as well, doesn't it? Yeah. People love a little challenge.
When we were, listen, I just very, very recently, for my own reasons, I've rewatched all 5 seasons of The Wire. And in season 5, which concentrates on the newsroom and the press, actually, I remember thinking the very first time I saw it, that as a former journalist who grew up in newspapers at the time where things were cutting repeatedly, this is the last time. No, this is the last time. No, this is the last time. It was a real genuine, it was probably the most authentic reflection of my understanding of being in a newsroom that I've ever seen articulated through the screen. And there were cuts and cuts and cuts. And the words more with less kept coming up. And it was treated as it really should be, if you think about it, as a very cynical corporate, what would now be called gaslighting. It's like, guys, we can do more with less. So we're going to lose our foreign correspondents. We're going to lose our city desk. We're going to take wires from them. We're going to save 2 million on the building, but more with less, guys.
Yeah.
Now, do more with less. And this podcast, I'm trying to find ways of being positive and strategic and successful. And honestly, very, very little of it, as I pointed out on a recent sort of roundup, is to do with tech. There's loads of stuff about tech, loads on AI.
Yeah.
But actually, if you look at the 20 episodes just hence, I can tell you that very few of them were about AI. They were about mindset. They were about being practical. They were about determination. They were about creativity and finding a way around. If somebody if Graham at Qubit 15 years ago had come to you and me and said, guys, we need you to lose a third of your teams each. We need to do more with less.
Yeah.
You would have looked for another job potentially rather than being as proud of it as you are now with the mindset you have.
Yeah.
What's your reflection?
I think that with our version at Laylo of Do More With Less is about how can you get the most attention and not like, not all attention is equal, right? How can you bring the most joy, like put a smile on someone's face in a low cost way? But the cost cutting is not the driver. It's actually because, I personally am more proud of a piece of work that is silly and fun and that people still remember months later than a video that we've put on Meta.
A shiny corporate,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
I think people remember it more. I think so. So the message in
so
the
it's not
team,
negative to you when you think
No.
about do more with less. You're taking a kind of very you're almost proud of what you do. I
Yeah.
remember when you told, I can't remember whether you told the market or told me, but you used to spend in the first iteration of the business,
Yeah.
you used to spend quite a lot on Meta ads and Google ads, and it was only when you sort of had the confidence that actually what was working for you was sassy PR created by yourself that you just went, do you know what, we don't actually need, so you cut marketing spend.
Yeah, we cut marketing spend
And sort
90%.
of double the business, right?
Yeah, so not quite double, but I mean, we cut marketing spend by 90%, and we still, I think we were up like 70% that year. It takes more time, right? I think everything has a cost, and for some things that cost is money, and for other things that cost is time. And often, if you don't have the money, then you need to put in the time. And I'd say that was the kind of the shift. So again, it's maybe not do more with less. It's like actually rather than take the shortcut and spend this money and get this outcome, you can do something that's a bit harder, because being creative isn't easy. I think the best creative looks easy, but
Were you always
not.
a creative?
I don't know if I was always creative. I've always found things really funny. Like I remember when you did a presentation at Qubit, and you and Graham went to Downing Street, and you had just like a random document with you. And I don't think it was actually anything particularly secret, but when you shared the pictures, you pixelated it just to make people think it was secret. I thought that was
nothing on it.
Brilliant. I think about that all the time. And like I've always found like life quite funny, and have. I think that being able, it's been really, I don't know, like sort of empowering or fun to actually be able to bring a bit of that side of my personality into my work. And I think that's
joy.
Creativity is like kind of followed. So, I think it's really funny now I think that being creative now is just me sort of taking those things I used to think at the back of my head, like, oh, that would be amusing, and doing something with it.
One of the stupidest, honestly, when you did it, I was like, sometimes she's a genius, but sometimes she's just an idiot. Like, there was this thing that you did where, and it must have been like the lowest investment, low sort of burden, low touch. And I don't even know if it had an effect, but I followed it. It was like, you wrote something like on LinkedIn, under your name, say, if you want to know how to say my name correctly, go to the voice automating thing. And I was like, what? It's Laura Riches. How complicated? I'm Mark Choueke, for God's sake. So I pressed the button to see how. Is it Riche? I mean, like, how have I been pronouncing it badly?
Oh,
and it just went, buy more Laylo. And that was it. I was like, you're an idiot. You've literally wasted a minute of my time. But I can remember it now, and that was like 4 years ago.
Years ago, yeah. I mean,
like you must have got up in the morning and go, do you know what? That'd be fun.
Yeah. Well, I was like, well, there's a little bit of, because I also think you have to use all opportunities to be funny or like to market, right? So when we're doing a like a discount code, it's never, I mean, occasionally it is because we need to like track things, but usually it is something silly, like the code itself. So for example, when we did turn off Meta, we had an email that I wrote, and it got picked up by our hero Dave Harland, who's just like a copywriting genius. And basically this email was saying, we're spending all this money on Facebook, and the only person getting rich out of this is Mark Zuckerberg. It costs me £15. It actually costs me a little bit more every time I get a new customer, and I'd rather give that money to you. So if you go and buy a box of Laylo, put in the code ZUCK, and you get £15 off. And you win because you get better wine. I win because I've got a brilliant new customer, and I also don't need to worry about all these horrible Facebook ads. And people absolutely loved it. And I honestly think it's because the name Zuck is funny.
It is.
And like the code was Zuck, and the subject line was Zuck this. And the open rates are absolutely amazing on this
Zuck
email.
You,
yeah. It's just funny.
Tell me this. You've switched lanes from selling to people like me who were always going to be a fan, wanted to support business of a mate, but also suddenly was turning up everywhere with these wines and, you know, gave my wife one more reason to be impressed with me. To selling to, and I don't know if you can name any, I'd love you to, but obviously there's probably a sensitivity there, but I don't know if you can name any of your trade customers, but I know the sort of businesses you're selling to, and they're super impressive. Does your engagement, marketing, outreach change at all from B2C to B2B? I'll tell you why I ask. Firstly, I'd love to know about, are you still committed to what I'm calling do more with less, like seeing if I can win that way? But also, are you still allowing yourself to be as personality led? Because it's all very well more brand and brand leads to demand and we're marketing to humans and boring to brave, but actually watching people do it is still rare enough for it to be a joy.
Yeah.
Was there any part of you as a person that's been on both sides of the fence that went, actually, if I'm going to sell to a corporate or a corporation, somebody somewhere is going to need me in the wine and Laura equivalent of a suit and tie, or a proper presentation with, or investors?
Yeah.
Or are you still Laura?
No, do you know what? I think it's better for B2B, because people, I think, go into that mindset of like, oh, I'm speaking to a buyer and therefore I need to have this metaphorical suit and tie. Like I think it's easier and more impactful to do something a bit wacky and creative. So a good example of this. So we've launched on the Transpennine Express, brilliant sort of network of trains up north. And really big account for us as well. It's the first time we've got a train line, huge account, and I really wanted to win it. So it just, the stakes were high. It wasn't a sort of like a little account that actually let's test something out. And we did all the right things, and we emailed and we've built a relationship, and we did a really important commercial proposal. And, I don't want to do the team a disservice, because I'm sure all of those things were really were the driving force behind the listing.
It's the must have.
Exactly. But one thing we did do was, I was talking to one of the team members there. We'd gone for a coffee. Always try and be face to face also. I think it's so easy to hide behind emails, but if you can possibly meet someone, it's just so much better, isn't it? And then he dropped into conversation. He loves pancakes. So it was Pancake Day was coming up, and he was just like, oh, it's hard to get things done really quickly, but we have to do something for Pancake Day on the trains. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting, mental note to self. And then a couple of days later, I was going to be sending him and his team some more samples of new vintages. And I thought, you know what? Let's just pop into Tesco's and see what we can pull together. And basically sent some of those packaged pancakes and did a list of pairings. So with the Malbec, it was that bacon that you can buy. It's already cooked, and maple syrup, and then same different ones for Sauvignon and Rosé, and put it all together in a little hamper and sent it. And got this amazing message being like, "Oh my God, you absolutely made our day. Thank you so much." Now I don't think it won us the account. I don't want to do them a disservice by thinking that you can hack your way in that way. But actually, what a brilliant way to start off that relationship. We're not just the wine company who sent them some boring samples. We're the people who sent them pancakes and listened and actually heard something that wasn't, about the business. It was about the actual person behind it. So we do try and do that wherever we can. And you've mentioned investment a couple of times. I think it's even more important now reaching out to investors, because they will get, I dread to think how many messages on either LinkedIn or email, probably AI generated, that's like a sort of fill the gaps. Like I've always been interested in people with insert background, that kind of thing. So trying to be hyper personal when reaching out to these people too. And I challenge myself now to be more creative. I think AI has necessitated proving you're a human. So, if I see a picture and I recognize the football strip, or get my brother to help me recognise the football strip. We're like, oh, saw you guys had a win at the weekend, or just something that I don't believe a computer now could pick up.
On my first day of Qubit, the marketing team was showing me around, and they got me. We were over in, what was that street called?
Berwick Street.
Broadwick Street.
Broadwick Street.
Yeah. And they took me to a little room to show me like the blog and the Twitter feed and everything. And they showed me the blog, and I was like, so how many people read it? And they were around 4. And I went, 4,000. And they went, no, 400. I went, no, 4. And I went, just 4 people. Is it you 4? and they were like, yeah, pretty much. I was like, okay, cool. And they showed me the Twitter feed, and I was like, and how many followers have we got? It was like, not many, but 1 or 2 of our customers. And one of them came up from a customer at Topshop.
Yeah.
And the sales team or the commercial team had taken the Topshop team out for some kind of drinks the night before and got them absolutely wasted. And the tweet said, Qubit is the best agency for making me hungover the next morning, could really do with a sausage sandwich. And we had a little sausage sandwich vendor outside the office. And I said to one of the marketing team, Topshop's just there, right? Like, it's just down the road. And they were like, yeah. I said, could you go out actually now and just buy some sausage sandwiches and deliver them to the office now with a little thing on real-time sausages? What was our slogan at the time? It was like real-time insights or something. And I was like, just put a little thing in saying #real-time sausages. Take a photo of the sausages and with a sign and stick it on Twitter and say delivered, and just get it to them. And they all stared at me and went, can we do that? I was like, well, yeah. But are we allowed to do that? I was like, yeah, I think so. I don't think there's anything illegal about buying a sausage sandwich, sticking and then they were like, should we? Can we? I was like, well, if we say we can. And I thought it was genius, but the engineering team, who traditionally have to hate marketers for the first 6 months of their time at any vendor, were like, oh God, it's the sausage guy. Real-time sausages. I was like, no, I won't be doing that again. But I get it.
It's that feeling of like, can I?
Yeah.
Can I do this? And
would somebody else do it?
Yeah. And like, obviously there are some businesses that do have
By the way, they
hierarchy.
loved it.
Yeah. I mean, it's the best
Topshop
thing ever.
loved it.
Yeah. And like, that has got so much more value. And I mean, in this day and age now, would have like even rinsed that even further, right? It would have been
I would have cooked
everywhere. Yeah, exactly. So it was, I think that feeling of like, should we do this? Can we do that? I can really relate to that. But actually, I mean, the beauty of it being my own business is I can kind of do whatever I like. And discovering that most of the time, those things that you were the most worried about doing are the best bits.
So final question, because we're almost at time. It's your business. I've got hundreds and hundreds of CMOs that will watch this, and hopefully, because it's you and me, our friends and family as well, and we can get it even wider. But they rely on each episode coming up with at least a big insight to go, yeah, I can do that. Yeah. And it's all under this do more with less umbrella.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's your business, has the risk of doing something like that gone away? Has the sense of risk, as in this, or do you still feel nervous? Because what I'm looking for is, what can you tell my B2B audience about your style, your take, your approach on do more with less? Does it still feel scary, or have you proved it so many times that you're just gung-ho now? Like,
I actually now get a little bit of a buzz if I do push that. If I push it a little bit far, I think I feel that sort of like, ooh, is this a bit much?
Is this the one that's going to break the business?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously there are major red lines, but then most of the time, I think it's ditching the persona, thinking about how you would talk in the pub with your mates. Like, what is the thing that you find silly and funny? Like, I love Jilly Cooper. I think she is wonderful. I think Rivals is the greatest thing on TV. And I turned up at a Jilly Cooper talk, and she was talking at South Bank, and I made it my life mission to see Jilly Cooper. And I managed to drop in a box of our Sauvignon Blanc to her like dressing room, I suppose. And a few weeks later got a note saying, I loved your Sauvignon Blanc, darling. It was ravishing. And I'm like, oh my God, Jilly Cooper's described my thing as ravishing. That wouldn't, like, this is a life experience, something that I will take with me. Yeah. You know, whatever happens with Laylo, whatever happens in my career, I've got a thing now framed in my downstairs loo. that Jilly Cooper described something I did as ravishing, and that's something, you know, that I will treasure forever. So I think it, you know, once you've overcome that embarrassment factor, it opens up not these just amazing commercial opportunities, but actual life experiences that, you know, you will laugh about, tell your kids about, you know, for decades to come. And, you know, finding that fun, finding that energy is just, you could then, I can't believe this is my job.
So I fully endorse and fully agree. And I'm so grateful to you for coming on. I personally, occasionally, I still get myself in some trouble and some hot water and cause myself more hassle than I need by talking to people like I would in the pub and embracing that energy. Thankfully, I've got enough people in my life to forgive when it goes that way. But I still believe that doing B2B marketing the way you do it it means that you bring your life into your work and you feel like you're living your life.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. And thank you for coming on and talking to the audience.
Thank you for having me. What a joy.
Laura Riches, or Laura Richet, thank you for coming on.